Those online can mute their mics and we shall get on. Welcome to the Scrutiny Programme Committee. And I'm going to start with apologies for absence. We've had apologies from Councillor Paxton Hood-Williams and from the co-opted member Beth Allender. Do we have any other apologies at all? No? Okay. And for the benefit of those...
Sorry. Okay, thanks.
Okay, right. So the benefit of those who've joined the meeting online, I'm going to ask everybody in the room to introduce themselves. I'm going to start. I'm Councillor Peter Black. I'm the chair, and I'm going to my left.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridge Madhar from the Council Scrutiny team.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jane Whitmore, Chief Officer for Commissioning Resources in Social Care, looking after the community teams.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anthony Richards, Tackling Poverty Development Manager within Jane's Service.
Afternoon, I'm Councillor Peter May, Uplands Ward.
Councillor Chris Hawley, Cumberland Ward.
Councillor Hayley Gwilym, St Thomas Ward, but Cabinet Member for Community Support. Good afternoon, I'm Lindsay Evans, Head of HR and OD.
Good afternoon, Councillor David Hopkins, Joint Deputy Leader with responsibility for 2 items on the agenda. That's workforce strategy and agile working.
Afternoon, Councillor Wendy Lewis, Wenholoedd Ward.
Good afternoon, Samantha Jenkins, Democratic Services Officer.
Hello, I'm Adrian Jeremiah from the Council's Legal Department.
Right, thank you, everybody. So item 2 is disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. Does anybody have anything they wish to disclose at all? Just check online. No? Okay. So item 3 is prohibition of whip votes and declaration of party whips. And then item 4 are the minutes of the previous meeting. So we'll just go through them for accuracy. On page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, 5, and 6. Are we all happy that those minutes are accurate? Yes. Okay, thank you. In that case, item 5 is public question time. We haven't had any public questions received. So I'm going straight on to item 6, which is the delivery of corporate priority of tackling poverty and enabling communities. Can I welcome Councillor Alison Anthony, who I think is online, the Cabinet Member for Wellbeing, Poverty Reduction Policy Lead. Councillor Gwilym, who's the County Cabinet Member for Community Support, as you just said earlier. Jane Whitmore, who's introduced herself, and Anthony Richards, the Poverty Action Manager. So welcome. Alison, do you want to say a few words to introduce this?
Please, Chair, thanks very much. Thank you for asking us here today to report on the progress made in delivering one of our corporate priorities. We have set out key updates from the past year and the actions taken to help our community, Karen's on my own right there. The 2 reports will give you an insight into what is taking place and how, through a multidisciplinary approach, we are doing everything we can to improve the hardships that many are facing. You will see in both reports fantastic and creative ways all our services are tackling poverty in Swansea. This could never be done alone. It is vital our colleagues in health and the third sector work with us. I'm very proud of how we don't just pay lip service to poverty. We do everything that we can to address not only the short-term crisis needs, but the long-term, the range of expert services that can guide people through. It is hard to measure many aspects, as change can take a long time with complex pathways. The universal credit benefit system is brutal, and just navigating this is complex. What I believe these reports will evidence in the multiple resources we have and how we wrap around people. The Poverty Truth Commission showed us how it is crucial that when someone needs help, that they find someone who will give them that support or direct them to somebody who can help them. We've seen it through the Poverty Truth Commission, through the stigma research, everything. It is crucial that people are willing to help others, poverty is worsening, and more than ever in work poverty. Our staff use every tool available to support vulnerable people through different initiatives, through grants, through their knowledge. We've got fabulous forums, internal, external, and we really do value co-production. We don't give a lip service. We really do try to do everything we can there. I would like to thank everyone involved for the hard work and care you put into each day, and conclude our strategy will be here shortly. It has taken a time, but I feel strongly that we have done all we can to listen to the voices of lived experience and experts in the field. Once it is finished, a robust action plan will be devised from it, and we'll be very happy to come back and present it. In regards to a performance framework, I am anxious of this, as it is very sort of government language and not something that is easily developed in a poverty arena. And we know this through Sure Start and Flying Start. We can, we can measure lots of things, how many people attend, you know, how many food parcels we've given out, but sometimes capturing that long-term information, you know, can be generational. It's very difficult, but we certainly will be attempting to do all we can with an action plan and producing reports for you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alison. Right, I'm going to move on to questions then. If I start, unless Jane wants to add anything at all.
No, not really, Chair. I think Alison's done a really good job. And
Yeah.
just to say, really, that, you know, just to echo what Alison has said around that difficulty about performance measures and frameworks. I think as an example, as Alison was talking there, we were in a Flying Start setting last week, and we met a young man who was age 11, who had started in a Flying Start setting at the age of 2, had really poor speech and language. And it was there in front of us that in terms of how you demonstrate the impact of all of the different initiatives and the difference that they've made to that child's life and his life chances. He was I'm looking at my colleagues across the room, he was a very animative, great young man, real credit. And that is how you measure that in a framework of a performance framework. Was really, it struck it home to me, is to say, this is real. These are the differences we're making to real people's lives, and it was really moving. So when we're talking about where we are with everything, it is really difficult, but we mustn't lose sight of those real life stories and the massive difference it makes. I've just got to say a quick thank you to officers, especially Anthony, who's worked alongside us pulling the report together. Notably, you'll see this year there are 2 reports, one on tackling poverty and one on enabling communities. The word enabling communities was added to the corporate priority in 2004, so we've split the reports. Welcome feedback from the committee to say, is it easier to have them in 2 separate ones, because one is tackling poverty, enabling communities is something different, but it is the actual driver to enable us to tackle poverty. So just to welcome some feedback for future iterations. But I know the time is tight, Chair, so I'll stop there. And we'll go straight into the questions, if that's okay.
Hey, thank you. Right, so I'll start off. What's changed in the refreshed tackling poverty strategy since we saw a draft of it a year ago, and what account was taken of the committee's feedback?
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that question. I've made copious notes on this, but I appreciate that you've got a lot to get through the meeting. So I'll go through briefly. If you've got any further questions on what I say, please do ask. So yeah, it was February last year. Since then, there was a lot of preparation for public consultation on the same document that you saw, and preparation with developing easy read versions of those documents, being mindful of the recommendations from the committee as part of what we wanted to gather along with the responses from that consultation. So where we're at right now, that consultation closed in November, and it opened in October, ran through till mid-November, and we're currently taking on board all the recommendations and everything that we've learned. We know that there are some improvements that we want to make and should make to the draft that went out to public consultation, and I'll give you a whistle-stop tour of what those are. Some of these recommendations should sound familiar to you because they are your own recommendations. So a clearer definition of poverty, so clearer than was in the draft even, and we will be looking to summarise poverty as being income below the minimum income standard, inadequate access to good quality services, and barriers to social, cultural, leisure and decision-making activities. We Furthermore, we want to more thoroughly examine within the strategy the causes and drivers of poverty so that those are explained, aiming to kind of improve readers' knowledge of poverty as well, which hopefully will go some way to contributing towards tackling poverty stigma and reducing stigma around poverty. We want to draw further from evidence and research, including lived experience, to propose reasonable actions that can be taken in the context of the drivers. So the strategy should be a flow of information that leads to the actions that are not, that are in relation to what the strategy is the direction the strategy is pointing towards. We want to also be clear about acknowledging where the causes of poverty are beyond our powers as a local authority, and understanding what we can do that does make a difference, and what tools we have available to us. We want to also further identify poverty demographics, identifying groups that are at higher risk or rates of poverty or longer lasting poverty, such as children, renters, minority ethnic groups, disabled people, people with long-term health conditions, carers, UC claimants, etc. That will lead us to establishing a framework for an action plan that's based on the evidence within the strategy, along with what we've learned from lived experience and all the engagement that's happened to this point, informing not just what we do, but how we go about the things that we do. That's equally important in terms of not just what we do, but how we do it, and how people can access that service, and how it feels to be engaged with Swansea Council. We plan, it is likely that the framework around actions, this isn't set in stone yet, but it's likely that the actions within the strategy will fit under a couple of headings. So number one would be dealing directly with low income being low, and raising income and lowering costs, so reducing costs and maximising income. Addressing barriers to accessing services, continuing the work and building on the work in terms of meaningful conversations about barriers and experiences of lived experience of poverty, co-production, and social inclusion, which is really important part, and we really kind of learned from the network of Swansea Spaces how important that is, and the wider benefits that work has actually realised. I think I'll end there, unless you've got any other specific questions about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just in terms of the action plan, I know you and both Alison referred to it. Is there a timetable for when that's going to come, and what risks or constraints could delay sign off or delivery of the strategy or action plan?
Absolutely, thank you. So as I say, we're currently working on improving that draft as just outlined, which will likely go through March. Alongside that, a significant project that has informed the lived experience work is a partnership project that we secured for Swansea with Wales Centre for Public Policy on poverty stigma. So they're preparing their final report with recommendations around tackling poverty stigma, and the timing's perfect because those recommendations will align with the development of the action plan. I'm expecting to have sight of those around April time, with the final report formally being launched in May. The step from there, because we have done lots of lived experience work, understanding what would make a difference from the public's perspective. But with the work that we're doing on the strategy document, we want to go through a process of engaging the various directorates and services within the council, teasing out and working with them to identify the key actions that flow from the strategy and align with the direction of the strategy. There, we've already had some good contributions from education as one example that's feeding into that, but we really need to kind of kickstart that and have a process for collecting those key actions, so we're developing those correctly. And then when that's complete, I think it's really important that we bring this work back here. I think we're looking at, so it's an estimate, but I think we're looking at summertime, probably June or July, having everything ready to kind of present here before going forward with the formal approval process.
It's obviously a very long process, but very thorough one. Yeah. Okay, Mary Jones, do you want to bring your questions in?
I wouldn't believe it. It's just gone off as I was going to read it. Right. It's the performance framework and measuring impact. What improvements have been made to local data and intelligence on poverty, including the ability to understand who is below the minimum income standard in Swansea? And there's another part. When can the committee expect to see the full tackling poverty performance framework, and will it include measurable outcomes that demonstrate real improvement and actual difference made from tackling poverty interventions rather than activity counts? And Chair, I've got another question after everybody's finished their questions, if I may come back on a slightly different subject to the one I've just asked.
No problem. Right, Anthony.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Yeah, it's as was outlined in the Cabinet member's introduction. It can be really tricky in terms of data around poverty and having up-to-date local available data to track in terms of a performance framework setting. There are various sources of data and intelligence that we regularly draw from to shape our strategic direction and our understanding of poverty and what that looks like in Swansea and in Wales and nationally. One of those data sources is the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation, which ranks lower super output areas, so LSOAs, in Swansea, of which there are 150 LSOAs. It ranks them across Wales in terms of deprivation. That has recently been updated in November 2025. And whilst the initial data with the ranking has been released, there's a lot of data sets that inform the various domains of the Welsh Index, and there's still work going on. I know our statistics and information team will be doing further work to understand that and produce some documentation that will then come onto the council's website. And also Data Cymru, I think this was in the main report, Data Cymru have produced a poverty dashboard on their website, which takes in data from the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation plus other sources of data that are available. So I think of it as WIMD plus. It's more than that, and it produces a set of data that you can select which local authority you're in. You can compare it to other local authorities. You can compare it to Wales as a whole, and it tracks that data over time. What I would say is that data that makes up the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation, and then other data such as the census or other reports that ONS may produce, there is a lag in terms of what that data tells us about what's happening in real time. Typically, data could be updated anything from monthly and quarterly through to every 4 years or even more. So if, for example, we're looking to understand kind of current changes in terms of the impact of the cost of living, we need to make sure that the data sources that we're looking at actually kind of cover that period and are providing that data. I think the message I'm giving here is it is very difficult to produce a local performance framework that shows how the work the council is involved in and our partners impacts on general poverty statistics and data at a local level. That is a challenge. I think that Data Cymru's poverty dashboard is probably the nearest thing that we've got to that. As of today, they have not yet updated it with the WIMD 2025 data. So if you were to look at that now, that's not actually up to date with the latest data, but we're hoping that that dashboard will be updated over time. We also draw from some other think tank organisations for local level intelligence, whether I say local, Wales or UK, including the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, and the Bevan Foundation, and their reports are really useful in terms of kind of tracking trends and directions of poverty and what changes are in terms of drivers. So those reports really do help us understand what's happening at a national and local level. But again, it doesn't inform being able to track the work that we're doing and the impact it has in tackling poverty in Swansea. And again, I think another point to understand is that adds another layer of challenge to that, is being able to attribute the work that we specifically do with any changes in that data, whether trends are going up or down, whether we'd be able to say that's directly as a result of an action that we've taken, would be very challenging. We would love to have such a tool. That would be extremely useful to us. And with our development of the action plan, as far as we are humanly possible, we want to be able to track the difference that not just the outcomes and has the work being delivered, but the difference that is making in Swansea. And we will do that in whichever way helps us to kind of best understand the difference that we're making. And I think one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years with the grants is to develop impact reports whereby we're gathering local stories about the impact made for the grant recipients in terms of the organisations and the people that they're supporting. And that process has revealed some really insightful commentary on the difference that it makes, more than we even expected. Pretty touching stuff.
Okay, Mary, do you want to come back to the question?
Sorry, I couldn't get the microphone on. No, the second part, I think, wasn't answered, about when we can expect to see the full tackling poverty performance of framework. I'm not reading it all out again because I know they've been sent the questions, but when will the committee be able to see it?
I think we already said summer, didn't we?
Was it summer? Sorry, I must have missed that.
Yeah, you're looking at summer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have another question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I don't mind waiting till the end, if others want to ask their questions first.
Ask it now, you have the camera.
Oh, right, okay. Of course, I wasn't. It's on page 47 of the strategy, and it's about the jobs fairs. You had one in the spring, one at Christmas, and they look really busy. I was concerned. It says approximately 300 people and employers in the spring. It also said that at Christmas, but it's the people that you've helped into work or helped to go on to training. And also there's a reference towards the people leaving prison, how we're helping them, and now we have somebody inside to help. Do we actually track how many people have actually stayed in work, or the education, or whatever they've gone on to do? Or once we've provided that link, is at the end, because I would be interested to know how helpful are we to helping these people going into meaningful jobs, because we can get anybody work, but do they stay in work? Thank you.
Alison, did you want to come in on this first?
Yes, please, Chair. The work events had absolutely a lot of employers there as well, and they were physically signing people up on the day to come. I know off the top of my head, in some of the projects we had over 30 actually be signed up and be told to come for interview and things like that. We've got a huge number really of projects that wrap around people in different ways. Not everyone's ready for employment, so they what a lot of people picked up from there was that we can provide courses, especially if they need their tickets to be able to go on site to be scaffolding or anything like that. So they've been really successful. They were really busy, the teams from there, and everyone that was there was contacted, and offered support. What they can't do at the job fairs, which is really unfortunate, but it's the way the government sends things, they can't help anyone who's already in a job. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got people that come because they just don't want to be where they are, or they're the only bit of flexibility we've got is if they're being made redundant and they come into that date. You know, but for the majority of people, it has to be, you know, if you're unemployed. But and lots of people with us have had placements within the council and or other organisations, and have then gone to have employment with us because we've funded that period for them. You know, the prison is really successful. It's a real successful program. We are having a hard time in Swansea Prison at the moment because they've got it's really seen and used now as it's almost like a revolving door. They're coming in and over the park straight away. Do you know what I mean? And it's really hard to pin people down. So they've got to catch them quick because they've got to be there for 6 weeks before release to be on the employability program, you know. But to be fair, the education department in the prison and our staff, our employability teams, Zoe's in there, she's helped so many people. And of course, as you know, and Lyndon's been to the prison with me, it's not just about when they release, because they've released with just this list. You've got to go here, go there, go there. They, you know, if they're in our program, we're meeting them, we're supporting them, we're taking them to places, we're making sure they got a bed. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And that, and we fortunately we have got actually quite a good list of employers that are prepared to take people who have been in prison. Do you know what I mean? So and there's even more different work for veterans and lots of organisations there to try. But a lot of people in the prison don't disclose they're veterans. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And a lot of young people don't even think of themselves as veterans, even if they have served. But so it's very complex. But in answer, yes, there's lots going on, and it is long term. It's not, you know, one intervention.
Okay, thanks, Alison. We do track them, Jane, do we?
Yeah, we do track them and keeping in touch, and there is quite a big data set about where they all go, as Alison's talked about, through all the employability programs. That we can provide an overview of them if you'd like. As a committee, we'd ask Joanne to. It touches on it in the report. About the job shares. It doesn't really go into the detail of the outcomes because there's a number of employability programs that join up, but that is available if you would like.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay, Mary?
Yeah, I would like to see some outcomes, please, because I think it is important. We're doing all this work and we want people to be successful.
Okay. But we'll ask for that in the letter, okay? Linda,
Thank you.
You want to come on this? Tell us about your experience in prison.
I have to tell you, I can't believe how many people, when Alice and I were standing outside, how many people knew us. Big shock. But in any case, the points that Alison makes about the prison, absolutely right. What I was going to do, was going to say in relation to a point made by Mary, I attended an open day at a SOVA the other day with the Employment Support Services from the council. And they were giving real examples of, there were a lot of people there coming along for information about work, but they were giving big support to people who were out of work. I also visited another organisation which we were going to pick up with the cost of living scrutiny inquiry, and they actually stayed in touch with the person who got a job. They helped them to get that job with the CVs and everything else, but then they held their hand, if you like, for quite a few months so that they could see if they were getting into work every day, was there a problem with that, and so on. Because very often people who've been out of work for a long time, they've lost all confidence and they need to build that confidence up. And if we can help them do that, and this was an example of where they were doing that and making sure over that period of time they were still in work, and the retention of people staying in work was extremely good. And I think that is important, because having a job and you dislike it, or for some reason, because all sorts of pressures, they're out of that job in a couple of weeks, that's no good. We need them to, you know, be there and for the long term, for the long haul. So I was very impressed with the Employment Support Services and also a couple of other organisations, but we're going to feed those in to the scrutiny, cost of living scrutiny inquiry, as Anthony and Joan know. Jane knows, sorry, because we did talk about it last week.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Lyndon. Right, next question is Chris Holly on relative levels and comparisons, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've got on page 21, section 3.2, poverty annual report. I find it quite difficult to interpret it. Some of the cases where you've got issues clarifying the indicators and the material preparation, etc., between Swansea and Cardiff. Now, the majority of people would tell you Cardiff considerably wealthier than this part of the world, but that data dashboard is not indicating that. I was wondering if we can have some sort of, I know there's a population difference and what have you, but it certainly doesn't, it doesn't feel as if that's right then. Is that the best way to put it?
Okay, Anthony.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor. So that I think the table you're referring to there on page 21 is a table from Audit Wales dashboard. It is data that is actually out of date, and I did dig into their website a little bit there and the tool that they've developed, and in terms of a descriptor of how some of those figures are made up, it wasn't perfectly clear to me. I think from my perspective, as I discussed earlier, I think a more effective tool is the Data Cymru dashboard, albeit that it's not been updated with the 2025 WIM data just yet. But when that has been updated, there are domains around income, employment, access to services, transport. So we'd be able to look at that, and you can select which local authority area. So you could take down Swansea data, you could take down Cardiff data. The descriptors around how those data sets are made up are clearer, and you can compare to a Wales average as well. So I couldn't fully go through the detail of that particular table.
All right. That's okay, but I just find it quite difficult to envisage that some of the parts, some of that data set was so different. It seemed and it read differently than I would have thought anyway, put it that way.
Change on the command.
Yeah, we've had the same conversation in hindsight, thinking actually we would have been better off not putting that in, to be quite honest. Let's just be honest about it, because when you look at it, it just doesn't feel right, and we can't work it out, we can't explain it. When we talk about, when you look at the example of the Data Cymru one that Anthony's spoken about, that's far more clearer, and I think we can then draw a comparator, and it would be something you would expect to see, because they are very different cities, and you wouldn't, it doesn't ring true. So in hindsight, I don't think we should be using that one. It was a tool that came from Audit Wales, but it's not a very helpful. Yeah, sorry.
Even then, Audit Wales should have an explanation, because it just doesn't read correctly. You know, there's one of them there, I can't remember which one it is now, but it's one of those comparators. It just doesn't make any sense. Above the Welsh average, we are slightly above it and they are slightly below it, when we know that the employability in Cardiff is 3 times more accessible than here. So I just don't see how it works. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as you say, Chris, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yes. So let's move on. Okay, Lyndon, you've got questions on public engagement.
Right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, how successful was the consultation in reaching people with lived experience of poverty, and what mechanisms will ensure their voices directly shape services going forward? Is the first part of the question.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Unfortunately, it's my voice again to answer this one. First of all, it depends on how you define success. Personally, I think it's been very successful in the process that we've put in place here in Swansea. If I look at the whole process from the start of the work to refresh the strategy, even though it was that was delayed with the COVID pandemic, there has been a lot of engagement with people with lived experience, and what has really supplemented and supported that is the work that we were already engaged with in developing mechanisms for lived experience voice here in Swansea with, quite proud that Swansea had the first Poverty Truth Commission in Wales, which is all about putting people with lived experience of poverty at the heart of decision making. On top of that, the team have been out at various events, including the One Stop Shop, World Children's Day, where the team engaged with children from various schools. And I think another significant contributor to this that will directly feed into the actions that will be developed in the action plan of the strategy is the work that we've been doing with Wales Centre for Public Policy in understanding the experience of poverty stigma here in Swansea and wider, but the barriers that creates. And that has, again, that work has actually put people with lived experience at the heart of it, not just about people with lived experience feeding in and telling us about poverty stigma, but people with lived experience of poverty were also trained as researchers to research that here in Swansea and engage with the partners and people to understand what poverty stigma is and what would make a difference in terms of addressing it. So personally, I think it's been very successful, but it has required, a lot of work. We have put in significant effort to chase down and create and maximize every opportunity that we've had available to us.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, fine, thank you. Second part is, how is the council ensuring that residents, particularly those offline or in crisis, actually know what support exists in Swansea?
I'll pick that one. So again, thanks for the question. I realise I didn't answer the second part of your first question in terms of lived experience going forward. So I'll just briefly touch on that. So following the Poverty Truth Commission, we now have a Poverty Insight Lab set up in Swansea with people with lived experience of poverty. So they would be able to approach services, whether it be council, PSB partners, third sector services, to engage and share their experiences, but also services can approach them. So let's say the council is looking to make a change in something it's delivering, or it's looking to better understand how our services are received and the barriers that perhaps are in place for people accessing those services. We would be able to approach that Poverty Insight Lab and have detailed conversation around that, so that we can take action to ensure that our services are accessible and making having the biggest impact that they possibly can. Getting back to your second question there, in terms of information around the availability of information to those who are not online. Obviously, we recognise that with the advance of digital technologies, it does bring significant benefits to both services and residents, but digital solutions on their own do disadvantage those that are not digitally connected for various reasons. So it's obviously important that we have other ways and mechanisms to raise awareness and consider how others can access services, and that if they don't rely on getting information from those digital channels. Some examples of the work that we've been doing. We were one of the first local authorities in Wales to work with the Independent Food Aid Network to develop a local Swansea version of the Worried About Money leaflet, which is a really important leaflet for Swansea. And we've just done a print one, which is being circulated to all the Swansea spaces over the next couple of weeks. That leaflet helps people to understand what perhaps their money worry is, identify local services, local services that can help them to address that issue and put them in touch with it. Really pleased that we work closely with Citizens Advice as well through our third sector compact agreement to ensure the availability of free and impartial advice in Swansea. And through a couple of visits, you mentioned Estorva earlier, Councillor, through a couple of visits there, seeing the difference that it's making for Citizens Advice being available in that building, that anyone can go in there, speak to someone at the reception desk. I think they're benefiting from a much higher visibility in the location there in your store. We're making their services far more accessible under one roof, which is great. And we also promote partnership working and networking via our forums to ensure that staff across not just council services but partner services are up to date with services that are available in Swansea. So if they're working with someone or supporting someone, they know what else is available if they're not able to help with that particular issue that they're dealing with. They can effectively signpost and refer people to services that are here in Swansea. I fully expect to build on that work as being one of the actions in the revised strategy, so that we're that would be one of the priorities that I see being taken forward.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. The only thing I would add is anything about food support, because that can bring its challenges as well.
So yeah, information about food support. Obviously, we haven't touched on the work around food poverty, and I could talk for days about that. But it's not funny. We have a strong network of food support or projects in Swansea, food banks that have a range of different referral mechanisms. Some will only accept a referral from a support service. Other food projects can accept kind of walk-ins, or the members of the public can phone and arrange to collect a food parcel. And we have, a really strong hot food provision that's open and accessible through the city centre network, including Matthew's House. Again, that would form part of promoting what is available, and how to access that kind of support would come under that umbrella of moving forward and building upon how we let residents who are not digitally connected know about and access these services. But I think there's a lot of community knowledge about support that is available, particularly around food. I mean, I'm sure all councillors within Swansea are linked with their local food bank or food support project. I think there's pretty good awareness, but we can always build on that further.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We need to move along a bit more quickly at the moment. So grant funding and impact, Mike White.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. My question is around the grant funding impact. How is the council evaluating the impact and value for money of its tackling poverty grants, and what has this shown so far?
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate we're pressed for time, so I'll try and be very brief. Value for money is a key consideration when awarding grants around tackling poverty, through starting with the application process for organisations applying to access that funding, and also through guidance that we provide in terms of amounts that organisations could apply for. So we try and work with them, and we want to encourage applications that do prove value for money and are ticking the right boxes. We want organisations to submit good applications. We have a multi-agency panel that assesses the applications when they are in. Again, value for money features as part of that process. And for example, I'll give one example, which is around food, and it could be food that's provided at a Swansea space, so a warm hub, or it could be food in terms of prepared meals around holiday food provision. So we will put a limit on the value of a meal, and we expect all applications to be in line with that. So if organisations are applying for something that doesn't look in line with what we would consider to be good value for money, you know, we'll go back and work with them to address that application and, you know, ensure good value for money. Ultimately, we want to ensure that the grants that we receive are having the maximum impact in Swansea and making the biggest difference possible. So yeah, value for money is really important consideration. In terms of the difference it's made, I think there's some quotes within the report as a very brief sample of what we've collected from the impact reports and the monitoring process that's in place for those grants, that gives a little bit of insight into the difference it makes for people's lives. So yeah, that's something that we always look to improve year on year as well.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, can I just follow up? Can I advise, what is your sort of relationship and understanding with the suppliers that we use? Are they, do you find that they are supportive, or do you feel like perhaps they could be a bit more easier with what we're asking for?
I think so. The applicants for the grants are services or organisations. Some of them are council services. Many of them are third sector organisations. Typically, we see really good value for money applications, even beating our expectation. Really, I think, you know, our third sector particularly are very good at stretching the value of what is really a small pot of funding that they can access and making the most out of it. So I think we it's not a challenge or a particular issue that we face on a regular basis.
Am I? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, right, just move on now. Christmas cap voucher scheme. There were some concerns in the recent grant scrutiny inquiry about how the Christmas voucher scheme was operating, and they wanted us to pick up on it. So particularly around its purpose, effectiveness, and alignment with the tackling poverty strategy. So how is the scheme being evaluated, and is there no need to redesign it to better align with the strategy? Jane?
So I'll take that one if that's all right, Chair. So I think it's really important for us. It was picked up in the grant scrutiny inquiry because I was part of that as well. So I think it's really important to note that it's not a grant that is given to us as a council, nor is it a grant that we give out and assess through a panel process the same way Anthony's just described in the previous question. So when we're giving out grants to third sector or even council services, they need to fill in an application form and they demonstrate value for money. They say what they're going to do and how many people are going to be benefited. The councillor Christmas voucher scheme is a scheme that is funded by the council. We've done it for 2 years now, and that is co-funded, allocated. It's not a grant, and we don't give it out as a grant. So it's really important to distinguish between those things because it is different. So we've done last year. We put out a survey after the scheme went right for you all councillors to fill in and say what went well, what didn't, what could we improve on, what were we worried about. We're designing that feedback session now for it to go around again for you all to fill in, and then we held a session last year before we launched the scheme just to talk it through and actually to understand, right, what was this, what you could do this. So would be hopeful that the feedback this year would be better because we give a bit more time, but we can always improve. So that's what we're looking for. So we're really looking for feedback from you all as councillors to say this went well, this didn't, this is where we need to improve, can we do it in a different way? And then we'll make any changes on the back of that ready for the future years. So and the scheme does align with the direction of travel for obviously the tackling poverty strategy, as it obviously it contributes to the mitigation of poverty and alleviating some of those financial pressures on vulnerable households over that Christmas period. So it is a contributor to the tackling poverty strategy, but it isn't given to us as a council as a grant or out to individuals as a grant. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Chris, you want to move on to clarity and coverage?
Sorry, have we progressed and made sorted the gaps out in local area coordination, and what steps are being taken to simplify the boundaries, and also does the current team size match present demand?
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was all of them, Chris. Thank you. So currently, there's no gaps and vacancies have been recruited to. So the current we're nearly at full capacity. There was 3 full-time vacancies. That was just the last one's going out. 2 have been appointed to into the posts. One starting at the end of March, one mid-April, and the other one is just at this one to go out to advert immediately. So these are now area coordinators. And the priority has been to offer continued support to those adults who were already in receipt of the support from a coordinator, and then respond to new requests for support for adults who are struggling. So there's no gaps in coverage from a model perspective. So we have asked for a response from this from adult services. So the area coordinators, now that we're calling them, are sitting in adult services as part of their early help offer. So in terms of what we've taken steps to take in the boundaries, hang on a second, we simplified the boundaries back in April 25. So they are all to cover all ward areas. So and the information on the area coordinations, there's a web link in there. I don't know if you've seen that, but we can recirculate it again. So they are where the ward boundaries are and where it all needs to look like. And that was circulated last year. But I can see that obviously that needs to be circulated again. So that's absolutely fine. And then in terms of the last part of the question, Chris, is that the new early help assessment and brief intervention team, this is sitting in adult services, they go live over the next 2 to 3 months. And then so all staff have been appointed and the HR process is underway, and there'll be a significant impact on our ability to support adults further in a timely manner. So it extends the reach of the team rather than it just being area coordinations, because it's a whole wraparound service then. So an integrated way of working with the area coordinators enhances the offer and bringing in extra capacity. So the team is due to that's transitioning onto our system, our data system. So having then both area coordinators and the new early help teams in adult services on the same information management system will make sure that we've got some robust and accurate information on demand and demographics, so that it's all, so we can understand where there is need or unmet need, and be in a far better position to respond. So that's come from our colleagues in adult services, because that's where area coordination is sitting now. And just looking at Hayley to make sure I've just covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to come in, Hayley, quickly?
Yes, yeah, only to say, obviously, Sue Parage has been appointed as Principal Officer for Adult Early Help. So area coordination is going to form part of that wider adult early help offer. We've got new lead workers in the teams, and that's going to be a much bigger offer than what we've currently got. In terms of area coordination and the boundaries, that piece of work was done, and we've got neighbourhood teams now. So you should have 3 area coordinators per area team to be able to pick up on work if one coordinator's off, and that should make it easier for councillors to be able to have a go-to person that they can link in with. There's also a mailbox, isn't there, that you can refer into and get your answers for any questions. Go on.
Peter.
I'm sorry, I'd actually dispute what was said there. The area coordinators are still not concurrent with ward boundaries. They are in, as Councillor Gwilym says, they're in areas. We've got overlap. We happen to be in Area 3 at the moment, and I don't know whether this has been covered. One was on the long-term sick, and then the other one went off to be a secret traitor and then retired. I don't know if she's actively pursuing a career in show business now, but the fact of the matter is, we are down to 1. Yeah, and we've had no feedback about what the contingency arrangements are. So even though the model's saying that they should be zoned, what is actually happening on the ground? When we speak to the one that we've got remaining, she says, "Oh no, well I wasn't in that part of the ward because that area coordinator sort of touched a Town Hill bit of the ward." So they don't act in areas. They act zonally as to where they were before. So that's not what's happening on the ground in Area 3. So the question, I suppose, is, are we going to get back to 3 coordinators? Was that one of them? And correct you, it's not a ward boundary, it is zonal, which incorporates other wards too. And, can we have a better contingency? Because we do realise that they have been cut from the numbers that they were in the original plan. There hasn't been an enhancement. There has been a cut in this service on the numbers.
Yeah, and the area coordinator for Cumberland and Landor has moved on as well, so that there's a vacancy there. Yeah, Jane, do you want to quickly come back?
I'll feed it back, and so you can get we'll get a response for you in terms of what's happening with area coordinations, because but I think I think it's because it's changed, and then the staff perceive it as a cut. But taking on board the area 3, if there's gaps there, and that they are saying that there's something that isn't going quite right, so I'll pick it up with Amy and Sue and ask for feedback so that we can address those issues. But thank you for sharing them.
Okay, we'll get feedback from
okay.
because although it comes with the poverty strategy, it's being managed by a different team. Okay, has anyone got any more questions on the poverty strategy at all? No? Okay, can I thank you for coming along? I look forward to seeing you when we come back, presumably in the summer, and we will pick up on the outcome of that as well. So thank you very much indeed. We'll write to you with the outstanding points and get some answers on that as well.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, moving on to item 7, which is the delivery of the workforce strategy. Can I welcome Councillor David Hopkins, the Cabinet Member for Delivery and Joint Deputy Leader, and also Lindsay Evans, the Head of HR, who I believe has just taken over as Head of Service. So, David, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I will be brief. Try to be brief on this report. I think it's a very important report. I think we must recognise our biggest asset as authority are our workforce. And I think our workforce strategy, recognises that. Our workforce strategy has now been in place since 2022 and working towards 2027. The strategy remains to be a central delivery for a corporate plan and ensuring we have motivated, skilled and resilient workforce, capable of meeting the needs of our residents both today and for years ahead. Over the last year, we've continued to make strong progress against 4 themes in the strategy. You'll very shortly from Head of HR, Lindsay, and OD, just to provide some details briefly about some key headlines. But firstly, we maintain momentum in leadership and management and development throughout the development management programme. Secondly, workforce fit for the future. We continue to mature workforce planning capability. And thirdly, our work to enable the employee of choice continues to strengthen and develop our recruitment process. And finally, we are committed to workforce well-being and inclusion remains central. The Head of Service will out some ongoing efforts to strengthen the wellbeing support employee engagement programme and our equality objectives, ensuring staff feel valued throughout the supported role. I'd like at this point to hand over to Lindsay just to take us through the report, and I know we are time, but I will try be as brief as we possibly can.
Yeah, we have read the report, Lindsay, so keep if you could just summarise, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll be as brief. So as David has mentioned, over the past year, we've continued to deliver against the objectives under each of the themes. And I'm pleased to report that all the objectives for 25-26 remain on track with a significant number of achievements. In accordance with the leadership and management theme, our focus has been on strengthening leadership capability and ensuring we've the right structures in place to support future organisational resilience. Our ILM Levels 4-5 Management Development Programme continues to be in high demand. In terms of workforce fit for the future, our aim is to ensure we have the right skills, data, systems and ways of working in place. Our social partnership report has been completed, ensuring that trade unions are central to workforce decision making in line with our Social Partnership Procurement Act. The Thinky digital learning platform has been procured. So we'll start to see that emerging now. That's a very recent development. We've undertaken a council-wide development needs analysis, and that's nearing completion, due by the end of March. In terms of employer of choice theme, we want Swansea Council to be rewarding an attractive and progressive place to work with clear pathways to develop talent. And again, we've made significant progress this year. That includes the completion of the recruitment policy review, which is progressing to Cabinet, major progress on the Oracle Recruitment Cloud project, including successful configuration of data migration. Our apprenticeship policy has been completed, and a supporting toolkit for managers is being developed and will be rolled out shortly. I'm also pleased to note that we've had some success in terms of receiving awards for our apprenticeship programmes, and our Learning and Development business partner, Rachel Hillion, has achieved the Apprentice Employer Champion of the Year award at Gower College, alongside two of our apprentices, Leon Letzi from Bill Building Services team and Zoe Payne from Waste and Recycling, who've also won awards for their fantastic achievements over the last year. So these activities support our goal of growing our own workforce and strengthening recruitment and retention across the organisation. And finally, in relation to workforce wellbeing and inclusion, over the last year, we've taken further steps to strengthen the wellbeing inclusion infrastructure across the council. The Employee Assistance Programme launched in July 2025, and that's seen steadily increase in usage, particularly for stress-related and anxiety support. We've also formed our disability network, giving disabled colleagues greater visibility, voice and peer support, and we're progressing towards achieving disability confident leader status. So these initiatives strengthen our culture, belonging and support for staff wellbeing. We continue to measure it against key performance indicators that are outlined within the workforce strategy. While we've made substantial progress, challenges remain in areas such as strengthening inclusion, improving data quality and embedding succession planning consistently across services. But looking ahead to 26-27, we're in a strong position with updated frameworks, clearer workforce insights and improving our grow your own pathways. We're building a more resilient, skilled and future-ready workforce, and the work done this year puts us on a very firm footing to deliver even greater impact next year. Over the past 12 months, we've seen strong progress with all the workforce strategy objectives currently on track. We remain focused on continuing to deliver meaningful improvements for our staff, our services and the organisation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think actually you've covered my first question as well. So I'm going to go straight to Mary Jones on the updated workforce data. Mary.
Oh, thank you. Can you provide the latest workforce demographics and risk hotspots, given the strategy reference 2021 data? And also, what are the council's most significant workforce risks today and how are they being mitigated? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Our updated workforce data dashboard is still in development as part of corporate data strategy work. We're rebuilding it to improve data quality, automate reporting and standardise definitions. And as I mentioned when I was going through it, we know we've got some developments around the data side. So that future workforce insights are more accurate and consistent for us. Because of this, the latest validated data will follow once the new dashboard goes live, and we expect that will give you as Scrutiny a much clearer, more reliable picture of workforce risks going forward. In terms of part B of that question, we continue to face several significant workforce risks, the most prominent being recruitment and retention challenges, particularly in hard to fill roles and specialist areas where we're competing in a tight labour market. We're mitigating this through a revised policy and the implementation of our Oracle Recruitment Cloud to streamline the processes, and by expanding apprentice and grow your own pathways opportunities that I referred to. We also continue to face risks linked to workforce capability and future skills needs, which we're addressing through our digital learning platform, Thinky, and our corporate development needs analysis. So we're making sure that we understand what training is needed and that that's better targeted. And finally, in relation to wellbeing and inclusion, that remains a strategic risk in changing organisations such as ours. We're mitigating this through a couple of things I've already mentioned in terms of the Employee Assistance Programme and the new disability network and our ongoing progression into the disability leader status as well. And with that become certain standards that we have to achieve. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mary, you okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So Mike, do you want to go on to recruitment and retention?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah. Which roles remain hardest to recruit to? And what evidence is there that recent policy and system changes are improving recruitment outcomes? I had a part B to that in relation to recruitment of our crowd, but I believe you've already answered that question anyway. But if you can just let me know regarding the hardest to recruit posts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have a clear understanding of which roles are hardest to recruit to because we now use consistent workforce intelligence across the organisation. Our data shows persistent challenges in social work, both children and adults, along with care workers, and then more technical specialist roles where we don't have the volume of employees, but they're very niche areas such as surveyors and engineers. The picture that we have here in Swansea is reinforced by Welsh Local Government Association research, which identifies the same national shortages. We also continue to see hard to fill posts in frontline operational services, but we've sought to remedy that, and particularly that was in waste and building services. We're seeing real improvement from the changes that we've made. We've strengthened our recruitment policies, improved hiring manager capability through training and development around recruitment. Our onboarding process is now more consistent with quarterly oversight from CMT and a refreshed corporate induction. We're also investing in technology. You mentioned the Oracle Recruitment Cloud and Copilot plays a part as well in terms of speeding up processes and improving our data quality, which continues to be a piece of work we're working on. We've also taken a targeted approach where needed, and Waste Services is a good example. Moving from agency dependency to recruiting permanent operatives has strengthened staffing stability and reduced operational pressures. Overall, we've got much firmer grip on how harder to fill roles. We still have the challenges, but we're now seeking those solutions through a more modern data-driven approach, which continues to be emerging for us as we move through, all linked to the data that we're working on as well in terms of those dashboards. Audit Wales at the moment is worth mentioning are actually carrying out a national review, a thematic review of recruitment and retention in all councils across Wales. Responding to the ongoing recruitment challenges that I've mentioned across all local authorities. The purpose of that is to assess whether we have the right arrangements in place to understand our workforce pressures, identify hard to fill roles and take effective action to attract, recruit and retain. So for us, it means looking closely at how we use our workforce data and insights. A key part of the review as well is about value for money. Audit Wales wants assurance that we monitor cost effectiveness from our approach. And ultimately, that review will tell us how we can strengthen our workforce sustainability and help us understand as well what's working well, where we need to improve, and themes with other local authorities where we can collaborate and work together to address some challenges as well. Thank you.
Is that Audit Wales, are they going to in all 22 authorities, or are they just picking one or two, and have they actually come into us for evidence on that as well?
Yeah, they have recently come into us. We've been doing work with them. We provided them quite a bit of evidence, and they are working with all 22 local authorities across Wales to build that picture. So it'll be interesting as the results emerge, and I can find out for you when that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Mike, are you okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we move on to skills succession and grow your own. I don't think that's vegetables, Lyndon.
I don't think it is. Thank you. Yeah, I think you've answered a lot of the first part, but I'll go through the two parts of the questions. So if anything you want to add in the first bit, and then obviously the second bit. How confident, the first bit is, how confident is the council that succession planning arrangements will ensure continuity in critical roles? And the part B is the apprenticeship and internal progression pipeline now reducing long-term skill gaps and turnover in key services?
Thank you. We have now formalised our succession planning framework. So that's in place and it's being rolled out at the moment to senior managers supported by our HR business partners. And this gives us a clear, consistent approach for identifying critical roles, assessing the risks. Alongside this, our confidence is strengthened by the work of the corporate data strategy, which is improving reliability. And as we see those dashboards emerge again, that will link, it's all very connected. This is essential to give us accurate workforce demographics. We look at turnover trends, risk hotspots, etc. And together, these developments mean our succession planning is becoming far more evidence-based and proactive, given the Council growing confidence that we can maintain continuity of our critical roles over the coming years. So it'll massively help with that workforce planning. In terms of our apprenticeships, our trades apprenticeship programme has been one of our real success stories. It was originally introduced to tackle significant ageing workforce gap in building services and has done exactly that. This route is no longer under pressure because it's bridged that gap with that apprenticeship talent pipeline. And we're now recognised in Swansea as having a highly successful trades apprentice programme. We're looking to seek that, replicate that in corporate areas so we can do the same. We've already started to create corporate apprentice roles this year, for example, in digital services and payroll, and we hope to see those themes emerging as the year develops. We're doing work with managers in terms of how we can streamline that. And currently within the authority, we have 103 apprentices employed to date, as of now, which is significant for the organisation. Thank you.
Okay, then.
Yeah, great, fine, thank you.
Hang on,
Thank you.
David, do you want to come in?
I think the important thing to focus on here is that, particularly growing your own, I think the importance, if anybody that sits on the appointments committee actually realise the importance of that, because we don't always get the people apply in. And I think when we do, some of the trolls are very disappointing. So it just shows to me how important, that grow your own is massive to this organisation. And I think the sustainability going forward, that is crucial. And I think our investment in some of the schemes we are talking about, we're seeing that now at the moment. And I think it is one of our successes. Is there more work to do? Of course it is. No organisation this size, but I think we're on the right track.
Thank you, David. Okay, Mike, sickness and wellbeing.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, in regards to sickness, have sickness levels improved since introducing the revised sickness absence management policy and new wellbeing support measures?
Thank you. Yeah, I will say it is still a little too early to demonstrate a measurable improvement since introducing the revised sickness absence management policy and the new wellbeing support measures. But our most recent data demonstrates absence levels have continued to rise in 24-25, with the council's outturn increasing from 10.7 days to 12.3 days per FTE. That does reflect national wider trends around this and also greater reporting compliance. So we need to factor that into that data. However, we are already seeing signs of positive change in the way absences are being managed. The revised policy emphasises earlier intervention, more supportive conversations and a shift away from the automatic occupational health referrals at 28 days. So instead, managers are encouraged to focus on proactive wellbeing and earlier return to work planning. The position for this financial year will be confirmed once we've updated our data dashboards, and these are available. Occupational health referrals, though, have stabilised year on year, and the expectation is that the new policy, combined with improved triage, will reduce long-term absences over time. So in summary, we're not seeing a reduction yet in terms of the sickness levels in the headline data, but early operational indicators with better triaging, the policy clarification and more supportive interventions do suggest that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, Mike?
Thank you. In regards to the managers training, how often is the training refreshed for managers?
The training has just been refreshed in line with the new policy, so that's very relevant at the moment. I guess that's the answer you're seeking, really, is the relevance in terms of training and how we update that. That is there as just-in-time training for managers as well, so they can log on and do that training. They don't just do that the one time. That's a recorded session that they're able to access all of the time, and that would be updated any time there was a policy change, or if we were starting to see that numbers were reducing. So it's something we would monitor. Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Thank you.
Okay, I've just been looking at the profile of our employees here, which I understand in some of these questions people don't have to answer them, particularly when it comes to sexual orientation, that sort of ethnicity, etc. But there's a lot of gaps there in terms of what we don't know information about in terms of employees. I'm just wondering, and clearly in terms of numbers, it's quite low. For example, we've only got, I think, recorded just under 2% in terms of Welsh people who understand or write Welsh, etc. So how do we make sure that the workforce we have here reflects the people who we represent and work for in the city? Because clearly it's difficult without having that data set to be able to work with that and to actually get them to reflect people we have here reflecting the actual breakup of the population.
Yeah, that's a good question. Our declaration levels in terms of equality and diversity are low.
Yeah.
We know that. One of the things that will help to support that going forward is the rollout of employee self-service, where existing employees will be able to record their equality data. And that's something that we know we need to really do some work on to try and encourage that declaration. And that is probably true of a lot of organisations. There's always something we've got to think about is how do we create that safe space for people to feel that they can declare that information. So that's something for us to work on going forward. But obviously interventions like the self-service is going to help with that. The majority of the time now we'll capture that at the recruitment stage. So obviously with our improved Oracle recruitment cloud system, that's also something that we hope to see will improve going forward. But certainly something to consider in terms of also how we create that safe space as well. Thank you.
Presumably that sort of information is anonymised anyway, isn't it? So you can't feed it back to whoever gave you that information.
That's absolutely right. That is anonymised information, but it's individuals understanding that is the case that is important.
So we need to do some work to make sure we can understand what the workforce is and how that reflects the city. Yeah. Okay. Anybody got any other questions? Who's that? Sue. Sue Jones. I can't read this. It's too small.
Thank you, Pete. I just wanted to wonder about the apprenticeships and if you offer apprenticeships for the care services. Looking at the success you've had with building services, would that be a way of maybe recruiting into care services? That seems to be a bit of a situation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, at the moment, we are doing a piece of work with managers to look at how we expand that apprenticeship offer, and good news stories coming from the waste service will definitely be helpful, and certainly something we will be discussing with colleagues in social services. Yeah, thank you.
I'd imagine where you have niche employment like engineers and stuff, we could also train them in-house there and with as well part of that.
Yeah. I mean, we can. Sorry.
Chris is disagreeing with. Carry on. Yeah, carry on.
Sorry. Yeah, we can look at. We've talked about apprentices today, apprenticeships today, but there are other grow your own pathways that we can explore, and looking at how we develop internally as well, not just recruiting into is something that we will explore going forward as part of the workforce strategy.
Helping existing employees get qualifications, do day release and that sort of thing, so they can work their way up to the organisation. Yeah. Hey, Christopher, go on, disagree with me.
No, I'm not going to disagree. I think it's the right and proper thing to do. The problem you get is when you are looking for specific skills, in the building trade or engineering or whatever, you may not have enough work once they finish their apprenticeship to keep them on. And that's part and parcel of an issue about timing when you take apprentices in. And I know for a fact that many years ago in a different council, they had a team, an engineering team that specifically looked after the design and building of bridges. But of course, once you've done so many, there's no need to do any more. So you've got to, where are they going to go? And that's part of the problem. And I think that's part of the issue about retention of workforce as well.
I could also explain why we got so many traffic lights as well, perhaps. Yeah, Lindsay, sorry.
Yeah, just to come in on that, I think that's where our succession planning that we've talked about becomes really important, and that workforce planning, and understanding again that, and I've mentioned it a few times, but that workforce data element of it to understand, you know, how going forward those individuals will be positioned in the organisation. So it's about future planning, and the workforce planning becomes very important when it comes to addressing that issue, which is an issue. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else got any questions at all? When did you? Go on then. Yeah, sorry.
Are staff who are working remotely adequately supported in terms of well-being, workload management? Oh, right, okay. You asked me.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure you were trying.
Okay.
Like,
I'm going to sleep.
No, you carry on. Okay, so thank you very much for that item, and we're going to move on to the next one, which is the scrutiny working group, the follow-up of the scrutiny working group and agile working, which we have a number of questions on that one as well. I have quite a lot of questions actually, so we'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. So, do you want to say anything on the feedback, David?
Yeah, and I will be very brief. I think I welcome this opportunity for particularly Scrutiny to look at this. I think agile working continues to be a core part of our organisation, and as service and support the workforce over the past year, we focus on ensuring the approach remains aligned to our organisation priorities and the right support and services in delivery, and provide staff the flexibility that we need to maintain standards of our residents expect. So, not going to say no more than that. This one, I'm sure there will be lots of questions as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So, in terms of this agile hybrid working approach, is there any evidence that shows it's improving productivity, recruitment, or service performance at all? Lindsay, do you want to?
So what we're seeing is that we are seeing greater flexibility, autonomy, and improved work-life balance. We know that from the staff surveys. We know that people value the ability to plan their day, supported by trust-based management and clearer expectations. The staff survey demonstrates that many staff are actively using flexible arrangements to plan their time. 84% of staff that completed the survey are able to work on an agile basis as part of their role, compared to only 16% who said they're not. The high eligibility ratio shows managerial trust and confidence in the staff working flexibly. We know that there is enhanced productivity. We know this from services that report that in as part of their service plans, and in relation to discussions with the business partners. Reduced commuting time will improve to the productivity as part of that, and people report focused home working, that there's less distractions, and that's apparent from the staff survey as well. Stronger recruitment and retention. We know that agile and flexible working arrangements have become a core part of employee value proposition. It's what attracts people to organisations, and that's well established from research produced by CIPD. Environmental benefits as well. Less travel reduces emissions and supports our net zero ambitions. So we are seeing a lot of benefits to that.
Are there any disbenefits?
Challenges, we call them. And there are challenges, and challenges are highlighted in our staff survey as well, which is in the process of being distributed to departments. There are parking limitations that are cited on when people are coming into the office. Some knowledge transfer concerns, not having those water cooler conversation that would happen informally, and some challenges around confidential workspaces as well that we need to work on. As I say, that the information is currently being passed on to departments to look at what the strategies might be to overcome some of those challenges as well.
I think it's a challenge as well for residents who try to get hold of people. Can't always get them when they ring the Guildhall. So, but that's a massive, which I think we need to work around as part of the use of the technology to do that. I think, yeah. Do you want to say that?
I think, particularly from us shows at the moment that we have not having the fallout calls. There's not so many people waiting for calls.
No.
So I see that there's a lot of data related to that at the moment. That's actually saying that's not happening, that we are actually more contactable. I think the service centre's been lots of improvements made at that point.
Yeah.
So I think we must recognise it has been a challenge, but we are working with that at the moment as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
I can come in on that, Chairs. You know, at the service level, departments have been asked to monitor any effects on residents, and there's been no significant negative feedback reported linked to agile working. Service reviews are carried out during the transition and have also confirmed that continuity of service has remained strong.
Okay, I think actually I've crushed Mike White's question. Sorry, Mike, do you want to?
Yes, Chair, you stole my thunder. You actually asked my question. And obviously, it was around about KPIs and obviously the customer experience. But yes, Lindsay, you've certainly answered the question. So things are improving. Thank you.
Yeah, I get it right now, no, because I just lost my way there. Yeah, okay. Are staff who are working remotely adequately supported in terms of well-being, workload management and digital capability? And what does the staff survey results tell us?
Thank you. Employee wellbeing is central to the agile working strategy. Guidance and support mechanisms are in place to assist staff in balancing professional and personal commitments, recognising that flexibility is essential for sustaining morale and productivity. Regular managerial check-ins, online wellbeing resources are available, and virtual team meetings that we have now, everyone's so used to using Teams, help to foster that sense of connection that might be lost through working away from the office and remotely. This support's been further enhanced by the introduction, I mentioned it earlier, as part of the workforce strategy, of the Employee Assistance Programme, which is available for employees 24/7. That launched in July. And this complements our stress management and counselling service as well. We do place a strong emphasis on inclusivity and fairness within remote working arrangements. And while it's acknowledged that not all positions are suitable for remote working, there remains significant flexibility across staff groups. We've got comprehensive training and resources, IT support, and clear channels for feedback, and that's available. We listen to the staff survey, we regularly survey our staff, and this supportive structure does demonstrate a commitment to our engagement with staff as well around the agile working. The staff survey results tells us that of those that completed the survey, 83.6% worked in an agile way, and it was 33% of the organisation that did complete the survey, which by organisational survey standards is quite reasonable. 82.7% stated they came into the office the right amount of time. 8.3% did say that they came into the office too little. Parking did dominate as one of the barriers, so I've already touched on that as well, and some of those challenges as part of that. The 9% of employees felt that they attended the office too much, but this is far lower than if we compare that to the national picture, and I picked up some research from the CIPD, was where employees surveyed felt 53% felt they were under pressure to come into the office. So we've got quite a balance there, whereas I'm not suggesting those 9% felt the pressure to come in, but if you look at data out there, there's certainly other practices happening in wider organisations. And while I've mentioned sort of looking at the wider landscape, in terms of national trends, 1.1 million employees left their roles last year due to lack of flexibility. So when we look at agile working and the importance of that flexibility, becomes very relevant when we pitch ourselves in the wider landscape. We know that flexible working from the survey significantly enhances quality of life for 80% of employees as part of that national picture. And 74% of organisations now operate agile working arrangements, with return to work mandates only being at 14% of those organisations as well. So I thought it'd be helpful to have like a wider context for the group. Thank you.
Mike, starters and workforce culture.
Chair. Yeah, my question is what changes have been made to ensure new starters are effectively inducted, connected to their team and supported in hybrid settings?
Thank you. We are committed to supporting new staff, and that is an area that we focus on because that is quite different now coming into an agile working environment. We have to think about how we engage. So new employees benefit from tailored onboarding processes, which includes relevant training sessions, access to named contacts and buddies, clear guidance on what's expected from remote working as well. And we've also introduced a new induction process and an online team session, which all new starters are invited to, and that's with DMT and the Chief Executive. The session's recorded for those employees who are unable to attend. And looking ahead, the introduction of Thinky that I've mentioned today, which is our digital learning platform, that'll give managers visibility of progress, helping staff to succeed in flexible roles. They'll have more access to learning opportunities and more advanced tools in terms of managing an agile workforce. Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. So can I just say, so you operate a who's system within departments for new starters to know who exactly is the sort of line manager or team leader all the way down?
Yeah, as part of the new starter experience, there'd be local induction then in terms of introducing individuals, to people within the team and the wider organisation. And the corporate induction would cover the wider structure of the organisation.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. Chris, consistency.
Yeah, can I ask, one of the working group's identification points was the fact about inconsistency arrangements across the whole of the organisation about agile working. And I'm not sure if you have any models that you can look at that hybrid working can be consistent right across the patch. And I'm sure there must be challenges to actually make sure that everybody's treated the same. I know there are certain posts that can't be agile work. I'm thinking of, some of the manual posts as well. So I think it is an issue, and if you can think of any models that you could look at.
Thank you. And you raise the point there that we are a highly diverse organisation, and that's really our starting point. And what agile working looks in one area, looks like in one area of the organisation doesn't look like that elsewhere. So if we look at like digital services, very different from what that might look like in highways or frontline teams. And because of that diversity, a single set of fixed rules wouldn't really be workable. And in many cases, it would maybe undermine that service delivery as well. Our agile working policy is deliberately built around managerial discretion, because managers are best placed to understand that operational need and how that will work. The discretion is supported by consistent expectations, and this is where we are consistent, is around clarity of performance, communication, well-being. Those are the measures that keep us consistent. We have seen firsthand that different approaches work well in different services. So some teams have introduced optional team days to strengthen collaboration because that works for them. And others, particularly our back office functions, work more flexibly without needing that requirement. Agile education in place have reported agile arrangements are embedded and are working smoothly. So we're not getting that noise of that sort of inconsistency out there from services. And that flexible approach strengthens the culture we want to build, which is a culture of trust as well, autonomy, professional responsibility, and giving that ownership to managers to look at how best to deliver their services, notwithstanding, obviously, we have measures to ensure those services are being delivered as they should be as well. Thank you.
Lisa?
These are the ones I've been asked to ask. Right, okie doke. Agile working for frontline staff. Your report, section 6.1, acknowledges the constraints for frontline roles and the risk of a perceived two-tier workforce, and refers to potential proposals for agile working arrangements for frontline staff. Could you expand on what is being considered, which services this might affect, and what principles are guiding this work?
Thank you. Yeah, and this is an important point. It was highlighted as part of the report, as you'll see. We've been very conscious as we've developed an agile working approach. But frontline roles, there are two-tier workforce concerns because of perceptions. Our report is very clear that agile working, as I mentioned in the previous question, can't be applied uniformly across all roles, and frontline services face different operational constraints. As I say, we do recognise that there's a perceived two-tier workforce, and if flexibility appears to benefit only office-based roles, that's not good for the organisation, because we're treating staff differently. So what we have to do is approach this carefully and deliberately and look at how we can't like for like these roles. We can't have frontline services being delivered in an agile way. They have to be physically present to deliver them, but we can look at what other things we can put in place to try and support that flexibility. The guiding principle here is equity rather than uniformity, and this means offering appropriate flexibility. For example, where staff can't work from home, we can look at alternative patterns of work like compressed hours, predictable working patterns, consistent shift patterns, those types of things. So, yeah, thank you.
Your paper mentions possible shift-based approaches in some areas. What assessments would be carried out before any shift working proposals are taken forward?
Thank you. So shift working is part of, was mentioned as part of a potential, suite of measures that can be introduced to look at flexibility. And where shift-based approaches are being considered, it's very much at an exploratory stage to start with. It would only be taken forward following a structured set of assessments, and that would mean that the surveys that are proposed in looking at shifts as being one opportunity for flexibility would look at the service demands, what the impact that would be on the customers, what the impact that would be on the workforce. There'd be conversations with trade union colleagues as well, the workforce itself. So crucially, no shift-based model would be imposed. Any proposals would be co-designed with staff, trade unions, piloted where appropriate, and reviewed when we look at what those, aligned to success measures for that particular service.
Okay, David, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah. Okay, just to give you a real sort of update situation where we were in waste, where we work with the workforce to actually look at different shift patterns and everything, to mitigate some of that difference between the two-tier workforce. Where we sat down and we still sit down on a quarterly basis with the workforce to discuss some of these issues. And one of them, they want half the workforce, a third of the workforce wanted to work a 4-day week, others on a flexible basis, others wanted to stay the normal shift pattern. We worked with the workforce on that. It was their choice. We worked with them, with the trade union. So we have got a split workforce there. Some work 4 days a week, some work 5 days a week. It's that flexibility that we built into the organisation, and it was about making sure it was right for the organisation and the workforce. Just taking the workforce with us is a key to this as well. So I think that's a really good example how we've worked with frontline staff to make that difference. So, and I think hopefully we can work throughout the authority at some point to try to get that situation throughout the authority as well.
I think we've covered contactability already, Peter, unless you wanted to raise any particular points on that.
No, I think we have as well, don't you? Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on then to Lyndon, learning from other organisations.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, learning from other organisations is important. What examples of good practice from other councils or sectors have been adopted to improve Swansea's hybrid model?
Thank you. Yeah, we do collaborate with other councils in Wales via the WLGA, and we share best practice on themes such as agile working. It's apparent that we all face similar challenges in local government due to the diversity of the services we provide. And sharing of best practice has helped to move some initiatives forward. We also link in with national local government network as well, specifically around workforce planning, which incorporates agile working. And just to give an example, this type of collaboration was particularly helpful when reviewing our leadership development programs in line with managing a hybrid workforce. Another example is in relation to how we've benchmarked externally to develop Oracle recruitment relating to new starter and onboarding in agile environments. Thank you.
Okay, Lyndon.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say, you mentioned, councils in Wales. What about looking at, say, some councils in England as well? Because they may involve different practices and they could be good. So it would be worth looking at that as well, possibly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I did mention we also work with the LGA around their workforce planning network, which also incorporates agile working. So we have a network with local government association is national. So yeah, we've got existing pathways into those local authorities in England as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, office.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously, agile working is going to make a big change to the office environment. How do you see that shaping up in the future?
Thank you. Over the past 12 months, the Council's made substantial progress on reshaping office accommodation to align with agile and hybrid working model. The opening of Estorfa has seen all the front of house services relocate from Civic Centre, along with housing options and back of house staff to support these services. The agile working model has reduced the need for traditional office accommodation, and this reduction has enabled further moves from a civic centre into Guildhall. The major new city centre development in the former St David's site has moved through detailed design and pre-construction stages, and Andrew Scott Limited have been appointed and construction is due to begin in the spring. This building will accommodate around 800 workers, with the council taking one floor and the remaining space allocated to other public and private tenants. Agile working has provided the capacity needed at Guildhall, along with to reduce our estate footprint. The nature of these new office environments reflects the principles of our agile working approach, with flexible layouts, shared spaces. Offices look a lot different now when they're designed in a modern way. And with the modern digital infrastructure in place as well, we've been able to do that. And now agile working is a defining factor in accommodation planning for office space, as alongside the staff wellbeing development and service delivery side of it. So it's at the core. Thank you.
Okay, this isn't a question for you, but just strikingly, we're encouraging people to work from home. We're actually reducing the amount of accommodation which we use for, and yet we're building a hub for 800 people. So it just seems to me to be a bit incongruent, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. But then that's not a question for you. That's a question for, I think, for the leadership, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry. Don't try to answer that now, unless she wants to say something. Okay, right. Thank you very much indeed for all your contribution, and welcome to the committee. So, and thank you for that. So I think we'll obviously put together a letter on any issues which we have arising from that, and come back to you as well. So thank you very much, and David as well. Thank you. Okay, item 9 is membership of scrutiny panels and working groups. Just to note in the report that Councillor Mary Jones has come off the street scene scrutiny working group, and Will Thomas has come off the public toilets scrutiny working group. Do you want? Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I just noted this. It just hasn't been reported to this committee before. So I'm just noting it, Peter. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just noting it's happened. Okay. Okay, and then item 10 is the scrutiny work programme. Just again to note, the committee's work plan is there, And the next committee meeting is on the 17th of March, when we'll be looking at parking policy control and enforcement, and also school transport. So that should be quite an interesting one. And item 11 is scrutiny letters, which are there for information, and then just noting the date and time of upcoming scrutiny panel working group meetings as well. So can I thank everyone for attending, and thank you all for being part of this committee. So thanks very much, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.